If you go back and look at Kodak, Kodak is still considered as the inventor of the modern day camera that you and I use. In fact, Kodak is still the inventor of the digital camera that you and I use. But does the company exist? No. The only thing that Kodak exists is the Kodak auditorium in which Oscars are held every year. Otherwise, there's nothing of Kodak there. So the logic for us is the same as organizations, as people. Do I keep myself relevant with times, or am I becoming irrelevant with times? And that is where the discussions and the debate that we'll have as we proceed. So how do I go back and take care of the missing links? So structurally, we have goofed up in terms of few things that we do that makes our organizations irrelevant. And that is the 2-3 points that we will discuss and that we will take it forward. The first and foremost is we are all loyal towards the process, not towards business. That is the beauty, the way we operate. Nobody is interested in client, nobody is interested in business. We are interested in the process that we've defined. People go back and stick to their processes without realizing whether it is relevant or irrelevant. And that is the first step towards defaulting. Many organizations, you will go and get this experience when you go to large malls and retails. If you want to have this, you do this. How many of you travel by air? Okay, so do this exercise and you will realize this. Just tell the air hostess when you get into the aircraft, saying, I've got a severe headache, can you give me a Combiflam? And see the reactions. Because it is not taught to them what to do, and there is a complete panic. So she will say, no, I cannot give you a medicine without prescription. But you will say, my head is splitting and I'm a panic. Then she'll go running again to the cockpit and come back. Then that fellow will say, Indigo prescribes Crocin, doesn't prescribe Combiflam, so I can give you a Crocin. You say, no, I'm allergic to Crocin, I need Combiflam. And by third round, she is panicked. Because the process was not defined to her what to do. You ask a glass of water, she knows how to manage. You ask food, she knows how to manage. The moment you ask her to deviate, she is out. Many of us are operating like that. Our processes have become so strict and so stringent. So I know it is conflicting to what other speakers must have been telling, okay, we should have straight processes and all that. I'm only going back and saying, whenever you build a process, build a degree of flexibility to accommodate what's happening around. Don't go back and tell business, I will not be able to accommodate you, but I will stick to my process. Because then we will not survive. Today the economy is changing so fast. Today the ecosystems are changing so fast that we need to keep adapting, and many times our processes are not ready for that. The second is the most beautiful thing that we do. We don't have expiry dates. And that's the beauty of most of the Indian corporates we work with, I have seen, We, including ourselves, have expiry dates. None of us in this room are immortals. But our processes are immortals. So the only reason why I will go back and change a process or a structure or a framework is when there is an escalation. Otherwise, I will operate on the philosophy of no news is good news. We have failed to keep ourselves evolved with the changing times. And that is what the biggest trouble I always go back and see with many of the organizations in terms of being future ready. The future is rapidly changing. As we speak at this moment also, things are changing. What 9/11 did to US is what yesterday happened to France. Europe is not going to be the same. How many of you traveled to US before 9/11 and after 9/11? You must have seen the change. The country is no more the same. It's completely different. The same thing is going to happen with Europe now. The same thing is happening with Turkey. As we are talking, things are changing around. So whatever processes, whatever systems we've built also need to have expiry dates. But we don't put expiry dates. We believe they are immortal. And when escalation comes and then we want to change a process, we'll end up in soup because we are already firefighting. So the whole orientation towards that is very, very different rather than looking into it very proactively. So how many of us are going to go back and say, I'm going to put things in perspective. I'm going to go back and say, this process will not be there for next more than 2 years. And after 2 years, this process will cease to exist. If it is good, I will continue. If it is not, I will start changing it. But our ability to go back and put expiry dates and look proactively is going to be extremely critical. And if we don't do, then we need to be worried. The third thing is the myth that we've created for ourselves that my processes are the best. They're so mature that I need not evolve. It is as simple as, like my biggest, so my wife has this craze. She's got this memory box. So she keeps things about my kids as they're growing. And that boxes are getting filled up. Why? Because every time the kid grows up, he throws away his old stuff. She doesn't want to throw, she keeps them. And that is the same example that we do. As things are maturing, we need to throw things up and we need to put things new in. But we go back and say, no, don't disturb the apple cart. Everything is fine. Why do you want to disturb this? Why do you want to experiment with it? And that is the reason why you will see many of our organizations have not evolved to the current times. And the same challenge we will see 5 years down the line. Today, the way the retail has got impacted by e-commerce, 5 years down the line, e-commerce is going to get impacted by something else. And the question for you and me is, are we making our organizations ready by making our processes smart enough? Today, our processes are static. Can we make them intuitive? How many times are we looking at data to go back and look into our processes and say, is this process making sense? Do I have a better way of doing things? I'll give a classic example. For example, in HR, like when we look at attrition data, data can clearly show who's best suited for you. But we still go back and recruit or hire the same way without looking at data. And we are going back and very happily hiring and saying if he stays for 12 months, 18 months, that's what it is. But I know organizations which are still operating at 2%, 1% attrition rate, which is imaginable for many of us. But they look at data and they go back and say, these people don't fit into us. The idea of having processes, the idea of having structures, the idea of having strategy in an organization is to make it future ready and not ensure that today we are maintaining it good. Today, if you look at our orientation of processes is, today my day should not go without escalation. I don't care about future. I don't care about tomorrow. I heard this classic statement from many people going back and saying, do you see any challenge in next 5 years? So I get surprised and ask why. He says, no, after 5 years I'll not be in this organization now, so I'm not worried. But I say the organization will be still there. No, that is somebody else's headache. Who will come over, let him do. Why should I bother? But that can't be our orientation. We are looking at creating our legacies, and that is where the challenge is. Coming next, which is another interesting aspect, is behaviorally why we have a challenge. The organization is ready to change, but I am not ready to change. So at individual level, some of the challenges that we foresee are these. Number one is, we are we pay the price for our own success. So it is very interesting. We go back and say, over the years I have succeeded by doing XYZ things, and I'll keep doing that XYZ things. And I will not change myself. And that is how we are quickly making ourselves irrelevant. So if you want to be ready for future, 5 years back I didn't know what social media was. I need not even knew what social media was. Today if I say I don't know what social media is, it is no more making sense. Do I know the impact of social media on my organizations? You will get surprised when we did this survey 3 years back and checked with the associates, what is that one influencing factor that you take into consideration before joining an organization? 68% of them said internet. So the moment they get an offer letter, the first thing they type is, should I join this organization? And then we ask them, how much time do you take to decide based on that? They said 3.5 minutes. That means they say in the first 10 searches, if it comes out this organization is not good to work, we don't join. Whereas I can assure you, when you and I were joining an organization when we were growing up, we went and asked our dad would say, I don't know, but I remember that uncle's son being there, so why don't you call and check with him? And we did that kind of due diligence to it. Today people are saying, why should I do diligence? I always get surprised when my kids decide to go to a restaurant, they'll refer Zomato. When they have to go to a movie, they'll refer Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll go back and ask them, why these two websites? They go back and say, no, their reviews are very nice and they're very appropriate. And I always ask them, but don't you think somebody must generally go and put a wrong review? And their question is, why would any fellow will do that? If somebody had a bad experience, generally we'll go. No? Otherwise, nobody will go and put bad experiences unnecessarily. That much faith they have. So the question is, if I don't evolve with times, I'll make myself irrelevant. And I'm not future ready. But if I want to be future ready as an individual, then I need to know where the world is going. I need to spend that time with them. So as much as I don't understand what is ROFL, but I need to know what is. Otherwise, I'll become totally irrelevant to that group. The same is with technology, the same is with the impact. Nobody thought cloud is going to be so big 5 years back when you talk to people. They were still looking at server space. I still remember discussions with CEOs where saying we will want to have a big hall with server space. And today there is nothing called server space. The logic is we cannot go back and rely on our past successes. We cannot go back and say, no, in past I did this and this kept me successful and this will keep me successful going on. It is important for us to go back and look at that, how we can evolve from time to time and how we can go back and build on our future. The other big thing that is what, and this is a problem with typically, I am a proud Indian, but still, sometimes I take dig at ourselves. Is the second point. As Indians, we believe that we've quickly arrived in life. Oh, college ho gaya, padna vadna khatam ho gaya. What do you want? Why should I go back to colleges again? We have forgotten we are students of life and life will teach us every day. So when we go back and somebody is trying to teach us, we've stopped learning. Now we all want to be teachers. Nobody wants to be a student. And that is what again stopping us from evolving. That is what again stopping us from being future ready. And this is not a coincidence from IT industry perspective. If you go back and say, some of the world's top-notch software engineers are Indians, but there is not top-notch one product company that comes from India. So these are not merely coincidences. There is a great deal of things the way we think. And one of the challenges for us is that we've stopped being students of life. We believe we've arrived, there's nothing to study, there's nothing to evolve, there's nothing to debate, there's nothing to discuss. We just go back and say, we've arrived, what's the big deal? Oh, ek baar refer kar lenge, aage badh lenge. But for example, how many of us have really taken pride saying I publish at least 2 papers a year, besides doing whatever I do? Very few hands will go up if I ask that. So you'll go back and say, what is the big deal of publishing paper here? Chumma, nothing will happen. I'd rather do something else in life. But it's important for us to understand, if you want to be future ready, we need to do some of these things. We need to keep going back to theory. We need to keep going back to intellect. Without that, we will not be ready. When you go to you meet your Western counterparts, they are happy. 40 years they've spent being individual contributor. He's a chip supervisor in Intel, takes great pride. For us, no. Every second year, we want a change in our title. So you'll go back and say, you'll do the same job, ra? No, sir, but senior kar do na. So I'll go back. So I had a very nice case, one day when this fellow came and he did a complete Shashtang Namaskar to me. I said, what happened? No, sir, mere ko US jana hai. So I said, why, what is so great about US? He says, no, I just want a US stamp. So I was very curious. I told him, what is this fascination for US? He says, dowry will go up by 25 lakhs, sir. He says, but I just want to go and come back. Now, that can't be the checklist for us. I know that is the reality of life. We can't deny it. That may be a priority for somebody. But just make me a senior software engineer or some senior about it or something. But our element to keep reinventing ourselves is missing. There is this fascinating story of bald eagles in US. So they say typically a bald eagle stays alive for 32 years. And at the age of 25 years, the bald eagle gets what we say nirvana one day, where it gets an option to reinvent itself, I believe. So the eagle has to grow and break its claws and break its beak and stay in hibernation for 8 months. And if it's able to do that, then it lives for another 20 years. If it doesn't do it, in another 3 years, it will die. We are like that. Are we keep reinventing ourselves from time to time to stay relevant? Or are we going to harp upon our legacy again and again and try to do copy-paste and make ourselves irrelevant? And the big challenge that I see with many of us is we've stopped being students of life. And that's one big thing. The last one is, somewhere we've got this myth, as leaders we need to speak and not listen. So we've stopped listening. And that's a big challenge today. As organizations also, we go back and see, okay, as leaders, we are not at all listening. We don't listen where the world is going. We don't listen where the future is going. We are so caught up in hearing our own voice all the time by speaking, that we've stopped listening to the world. And the world is always smart. It is giving you messages in advance, where it is going. So if you look at when Iraq was collapsing, everybody knew ISIS is going to come. We were not listening. But if you read Middle East history, it was very clearly coming out that these guys will come and they will create ruckus. But we were all busy speaking. Same is with organizations, same is with technology, same is with products. If you dispassionately take a 1-week vacation and look at your organization, you can clearly predict where your organization is going and will it survive the next crisis or no. So in 2000, when I was with Ernst & Young and we saw the dot-com boom and bust, we knew where the world was going. Today, e-commerce, if you see, already the valuations are coming down. So the world is emitting messages to us, but the idea is, are we listening enough? Like for example, try doing this. How many of you, I don't know, if you're doing it, great. But if you're not doing, please start doing this. How many of you do meetings with your team members and other stakeholders without an agenda? Right? Good. Do meetings with your stakeholders where there is no agenda. Just go and sit. It could be as simple as saying, why did Bahubali made 500 crores and others couldn't? Or it could be, what will happen if Donald Trump comes? What will be the impact? To what is Britain doing? Or it could be as simple as that, how can we get rid of traffic problems in Hyderabad? We don't know. But the idea is to just go into meetings without any agenda, sit and listening. Today the challenge is that we are so caught up doing masculine communication, which is like, okay, fine. So how many of us understand masculine and feminine communication? This is again an interesting story you can do today evening. Why does so we all do masculine and feminine communication. So that is nothing to do with gender. Why does the masculine side of us communicate? Any idea? Sorry? Boasting, okay. Ego, okay. Problem solving, yes. So the masculine side of me communicates to solve problems. Why does the feminine side of me communicate? Who said that? Photo khicho, ghar bhejo. Right? The feminine side of us communicates to share experiences. Correct? The masculine side of us communicates to solve problems. The feminine side of us creates, share experiences. If you go and put on the TV today evening, you will realize between 7 to 10, all the TV serials are based on either of the one. So on one hand, you have serials like CID, which are masculine. At the beginning of the episode, they tell a problem. By the end of the episode, they'll solve the problem. Correct? And we are very happy. So you take CSI Miami to Castle to any serials which are that. On the other hand, you have the Ekta Kapoor serials. Are they trying to solve a problem? No. But they are also extremely popular. What are they doing? They are basically sharing experiences. So the mother-in-law will say something, the daughter-in-law will say something, again the mother-in-law will say something, the camera will move thrice, dadan, dadan, dadan. So there is one serial in which this lady is pregnant for 18 months. So I asked my mom, how come she is pregnant for bloody last 2 years? My mom tells me that's the title of the serial is Struggle of a Pregnant Woman. So if she delivers, then the serial is over. So I keep getting surprised. I ask my mom, if you know this is the same thing going to happen, then why do you see it? So she says, no, it is fun. No-brainer types, And she loves that. So she went into depression when Pratyusha did suicide for 3 days. Because she said, Balika Vadhu, how can she do suicide here? She was trying to tell the world how to solve problems, and she couldn't solve her problems. But the fact of the matter is both the communications are required. The challenge for us is in our office we only do masculine communication. And which is? So if your subordinate comes into your room, what is your reaction? You are typing and you'll say, हाँ बोलो क्या problem है? That's your instant reaction. So what is it? The masculine side in me wants to solve a problem. Like all the men in this room will understand, when you go home and your wife will tell you, no, this maid is hopeless. What is the instant reaction? Change the maid. And what is your wife's reaction? Do you think I don't know that? But you listen what she did. Right? What are you trying to do? You are doing the masculine communication. Solve the problem. What is she trying to do? Feminine communication. Share an experience. Daddy, तुम सुनो आज उसने क्या किया? So like हाँ बोलो फिर. The question is, if you want to be future ready, you need to do both masculine and feminine communication. And to do feminine communication, you need to listen. And that listening will happen when we do these meetings without agenda. That listening will happen when we will sit with our vendors, stakeholders, security guards, everything. In HR, we keep this classic example. One of the most stupid things, HR does a lot of stupid things.